Hey everyone, it's Matt here.
How's it going, everybody? It's your friend Will, and as you can see, we're having clean background again for your clean viewing experience.
Welcome back to another episode of Tech Kingpins.
Today, we're going to talk about some of the most costly mistakes that you can make if you're running your own startup. These are things that we learn based on our own experience, as well as from some of our clients and close partners. So hopefully you're going to enjoy the content. And hopefully this can give you some inspiration when you start your own business. Make no mistakes that we did when we started our business. Okay, that's enough introduction. Let's get started.
Hey, quick pause right here. Are you a tech founder who's looking to disrupt the status quo? Or are you a business leader who wants to stay current with what's happening in the tech industry? You should always consider subscribing to this YouTube channel because we'll always be talking about the hottest, newest stuff happening in the tech industry.
Now, the first big mistake a lot of founders tend to make is that they focus entirely on their vision, but leave out the demands of the market.
This is commonly seen among tech founders. That's right. As people who are passionate about technology, we really want to build the most disruptive, the most innovative, and the most interesting product out there. But we neglect the fact that you always have to think about supply and demand. You always have to think about what's the value add to the economy or to your end user. And oftentimes people build something that's really cool, but won't be able to generate any revenue. And hence, that's why they die out. Some of the tech founders have this grand vision and they have really successful track record to back it up, such as Elon Musk. So they're able to raise funding by selling their ideas. But if you are just starting out, I will heavily recommend you avoid taking that path. Try to come up with an idea that can generate revenue or cash flow quickly, or are able to gain users very quickly in order to have what we call a proof of market. As long as you're in that spot, it's easy for you to scale up your business with the profit that you're making, or knock on the door of an investor and ask for more funding.
Another big mistake that tech founders tend to make is that they invest too heavily upfront into the wrong areas.
That's right. You always want to start small. You always want to have a proof of concept and proof of market before you scale bigger. Right? Many people are very passionate and very enthusiastic about their ideas. That's great. That's what keeps a business going. But you also have to be rational and realistic about the expectation of how the market is going to respond to your product. The chances are you're unlikely to succeed on your first version of your product. In other words, your minimum viable product or your proof of concept, right? But as you iterate on top of your MVP, your minimum viable product, you will be able to find better product market fit. You will be able to find an area where you can fit in the market with your product or your idea. It's not going to be 100% matching in the beginning. It's all about tweaking a little bit at a time. And in other words, know when to pivot. You can watch our video on that. We'll post the link below. When you actually start your own business. And once you actually have enough traction in the market, that's when you scale up. That's when you double down on what's working. But you try to limit the amount of cost in the beginning as much as you can.
Another big mistake you don't want to make is you don't want to ignore the value of your intellectual property. If you do this, you run the risk of having your ideas or even your trade secrets stolen.
A lot of startup founders, they are not really familiar with the concept of patent law, trademark, and copyright. And it is very important for you to try to protect your intellectual property, especially when you're developing something that is really ahead of your time, something that is really profound. You should always think about applying for patent if it's something that's really innovative and would require a significant amount of research and development and that idea is nowhere seen in the market. Sometimes even the idea alone is worth like billions of dollars. You may even just get rich by selling off that idea alone. And if you actually build the product of that idea that you had, then the patent will really act as a barrier of entry, will really filter out, weed out a lot of the other players who are trying to compete with you or who's trying to copy you, right? And especially from the enterprise where there's more resources and more funding. If you don't protect your idea well, they can easily create a competing product because they have more funding, they have more resources, they have more experience in the market, they know how to reach out to more people. So it is crucially important for you to protect your idea, protect your intellectual property. And also applying for trademark is very important because you don't want to get into brand infringement issues later on. If your logo looks very similar to another company, it may be a good idea for you to refine your logo a little bit. And just for safety purpose, I would always try to apply for a trademark. It's not that expensive. It will only cost a few $100s and it will save you a lot of troubles future down the line when you could potentially expose yourself to brand infringement lawsuits. So always keep that in mind. Protect your intellectual property. That comes down to applying for patent. That comes down to applying for trademark. Also, another point that is crucially important for intellectual property is that if you're hiring researchers and employees to help you build your ideas, you need to make sure that the employment contract is written properly, especially on the intellectual property clause. You need to make sure that you denote that the IP belongs solely to the employer. It's better if you have a lawyer to review your employment contract just to make sure you're using the proper language and make sure that the intellectual property clause is actually enforceable. That can really help you. I'm not saying that you're going to hire someone who's trying to steal your idea, but it's just good to get that out of the way before you actually recruit more people.
Another thing you want to try and avoid doing is doing everything all on your own. Nobody can do everything all on their own. And even if you could, there's a lot of opportunity costs. You can't be building the product while you're also trying to work on the business development. At least you can't do both of them very well at the same time.
That's right. Everyone's got their own strength in a company. Some people are better at selling. Some people are better at product development. Some people are better at making sure that the company's financial statement is correct, right? Everybody's got their own strengths. So you really need to know what is your strength? What are you passionate about? What is your interest, right? And if you find that part out, then you can find someone that can complement your skill set and someone that can complement your passion and interest. And that's a high functioning company. It's someone who is a collection or a group of people who each got their own specialty and they work in synergy with each other. That's how they can create value, right? The biggest enterprise out there are not run. The biggest companies out there, or the most successful companies out there, Fortune 500 companies, are not run by a single person. You can't possibly think of doing everything by yourself. Now, we're not saying that you should consider partner or find co-founder since day one. You can obviously try to scrap everything. Now, we're not saying that you should considering partnering up with someone or hiring someone since day one. You could, if you're a tech founder and you're, say, building a tech product, it may be more feasible for you to build a proof of concept and test out the water since day one. But at some point, as you find more success coming from the market, you're going to try to scale up. And that's when you need to bring more people on board. So you see, it's not really black and white so much. It's a little bit more situational dependent. But the key thing is, if you have more customers, more end users, but you need to make sure that you know when to delegate tasks and you know when you need to find someone who is better at doing a job.
So there you have it. Those are some of the biggest mistakes that tech founders make when they're first starting their startup. If you own a startup, have you made any of these mistakes? Feel free to let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content.
I'm guilty of doing everything myself as well. In the beginning of me trying to run a tech company, I try to do everything myself. You know, sales, client relationship, operations, and actually doing the technical coding. And before I knew, I felt really burned out, and I feel like there's a lot, just overwhelmingly amount of work or responsibility that's on my shoulder. So once I actually have more people helping me out and delegate some of the tasks that I'm not really good at, for instance, content writing, for instance, accounting, right? Believe it or not, I used to do accounting myself. That it was incredible. I spent like hours and hours trying to make sure the book works out. But once I actually outsourced that part of the work to someone else, I had more time thinking about how to position ourselves in the market, how to deliver better service, and what are some of the newer technical trends that we need to follow. That really helped propel our company forward a lot.